Let's bring in Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel, thank you for joining us. You know, we look at these scenes and we see all the officers surrounding the Capitol building, and I've made this point several times. It's very difficult to prevent something like this. This was a person who hadn't gone through the first checkpoint yet at the visitor's center. They were getting to that point, pull out a gun for whatever reason. It's not something you can stop, but it appears the response was very quick and very effective.
Yes, Ashley, it's great to be with you, and hats off and kudos to the Capitol Hill Police. I know many of them, and they do a fantastic job. And the great thing was that there was no injury to any of the civilians that were there, seeking to visit the Capitol Visitor Center. But, again, we have to understand that, D.C. has some of the strictest gun control laws in the nation. So, gun laws do not prevent criminals from taking criminal activities or actions. Law-abiding citizens will abide with it. Now, when you look at what has happened, of course, last week in Brussels and this incredible, terrorist environment that we live in, we're just going to have to be more vigilant when it comes to our security protocols.
Let me bring you back in, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. We live in a free society. It's very difficult to stop anyone from walking around and walking up to whether it's the Capitol building or whatever, and opening fire. That's what the price we pay, I guess, for the kind of society that we want and cherish so much. Based on what we've seen going on in Europe, and perhaps the depth and the how widespread the terror network appears to be there, how concerned are you about that in this country?
Well, I'm very concerned because if you look at what is up there in Northern Virginia, within the last 3 months, you've had 5 individuals that have been arrested on ISIS-related terrorist activities. That is the exact same place in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area that gave us Badal Hassan, Anwar al-Awlaki. The strategic memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood was found in the home in Northern Virginia in a 2004 raid. It was written back in 1991. So we have these enclaves that are here in America. Minneapolis, St. Paul is another one where we've seen many of the young Somalis that have left and gone back to fight for ISIS. So we need to be as vigilant. I don't want to see us live in a police state, but we have to move away from this whole political correctness and worrying about quote-unquote profiling, and we have to start using trend analysis because that is the only way that you're going to be able to piece together the puzzle so that we can start to dry up the sanctuaries, not just overseas, but also here domestically.
Yeah, and being vigilant, what do you mean by that? Just if you think there's something suspicious or someone is acting suspicious, you should immediately contact someone. Many people are just afraid to get involved.
Well, that's the sad thing, Ashley, because, when you look at what happened in San Bernardino, the home of Saeed Farouk and Tasneem Malik, number one, she should not have been admitted to the country because she gave false information on her fiancé visa, her residence information. And the second thing, we had neighbors that were witnessing, see something, say something. They decided not to say anything because we have created a culture in America and probably in Western civilization that we, denigrate the person that is reporting something. So instead of saying something about Saeed Farouk's house, people did not want to be told that they were an Islamophobe or xenophobe or a racist. They kept their mouths shut. Just the same as in Belgium when you saw the people with the one glove on their hand, on their left hand. Yeah. We have to start teaching people to pick up on these trends and see these things. There are many things that we learned over in the combat zone in Iraq and Afghanistan. How to determine if a male was wearing a burqa instead of a female, because those things lead to life-saving events.
But let me bring back Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Lieutenant Colonel, thanks for sticking around with us as we try and make sense of what's been going on this afternoon at the Capitol. It appears that it's all been resolved. And I also would like to update the no bomb threat in Times Square. That has been resolved as well, so that's good news. But it does just kind of put your nerves on edge just a little bit, and I would imagine that this is something we're just going to have to get used to.
Well, it's sad to say that, but in this new 21st century battlefield, there are no borders or boundaries, Ashley. And one of the things that we also have to come to understand is that sometimes these things happen, and they are probing attacks. They are opportunities for people to see your response time, how you do respond. I mean, we saw that in Iraq and Afghanistan, how, these complicated IED attacks went from just the attack itself to being able to attack the responding column or the medical support that kind of comes along with it. So you're right. We just have to be incredibly attuned to this new environment because the battlefield is everywhere.
It certainly is, and we see that on the news every day. Let's go back to Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. We understand there are reports that this particular individual who started all of this set off a metal detector as he went through in towards the visitor center. Of course, that detector goes off. He pulls out a gun, at which point police start to engage in some sort of confrontation with guns. I mean, it seems to me that if you have a gun and you're going through a metal detector and it goes off and you immediately pull it off, it seems to me that you're ready to do just that, to start firing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Obviously, this individual, their goal and objective was to get into that Capitol Visitor Center and fire off as many rounds as they could before they were, brought down into submission or killed. So this was definitely a planned attack. But again, if you have not been up and around the Capitol Hill area, the police officers there, many of them former military, are some of the best that you will find. They are very, very attentive to the actions and people in and around the area, and they still allow people to enjoy the Capitol. I mean, I used to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to go run past the Capitol, and they're there. They're there checking buses. They're there checking people to make sure that nothing is happening, and they keep an eye out. So it's just, once again, hats off, just the same as, unfortunately, when we had the lady who tried to run through the barrier through the car. They were able to stop her from doing that.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, for joining us.